Yay. All right. It is 2 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. I'm very, very excited. Um, Welcome to Bring a Hacker to Work Day, where we talk to industry professionals that are doing things in the cyberspace. And I'm excited because our guest today is Eric Belardo. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly, of Raices. I cannot roll my R's. I'm working on it. Raices Cyber is basically the Latin equivalent of Black Girls Hack. So they're basically focusing on Latin people's representation and increasing diversity in cybersecurity, because as you've probably seen, the numbers for the Latin community are, I think, less than it is for the Black community. So yeah, they're only 4%, and I think we're at maybe 9%. So I think it's important that we make sure that we're representing all of the voices so that we can increase diversity for everybody. So I will let Eric introduce himself. He has excuse me, been in his career for 30 years. So he's, I'm sure, got a lot of advice that he can bring to us. So Eric, can you tell us about yourself and what it is that you do?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Tanisha, for having me here, and for all the wonderful things that Black Girls Hack does for the community and for everybody. So, thank you very much for all your hard work for the community. So, with that, my name's Eric Belardo, and I've been in the cybersecurity world for now 32 years this year. Yeeks. So I'm a big time veteran of this industry. I started my career in the late 80s, working InfoSec. You know, I always say I started this career before it was sexy to start. So I started out in the University of Massachusetts, working security for, while I was doing my well, at that point in time, it was electrical engineering degree, and I started working, with the VAX VMSs and the DEX systems and programming in punch cards and all that good stuff. And my career took me from there to working at National Geographic in Washington, D.C., and then joining the military after that, and spent 7 years or so, where I served, something that's now in the news, the NATO side of the house. Um, did the end of Bosnia, and then was the thing that's big for me in the military is I was one of the first U.S. enlisted men to cross into Kosovo, and after that, I spent about 20 years or so, or yeah, a little bit, working in Washington, D.C., all the three-letter agencies, the civilian agencies, FAA, DOJ, FBI. And then after that, I spent the last 10 years working commercial entities, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing companies, and I am currently working as a virtual CISO and the executive founder and director of Raíces Cyber. So,
That's amazing, because that's actually my goal, is to end up being the CISO of somebody's fortune company. So I'm very excited to hear that. I wasn't actually sure, what you did in the cyberspace. Like, I knew that you used to work for the the all of the agencies. But that's super exciting. So what does a day in the life look like for a CISO? Is it different because it says virtual on the front, or is it just a CISO that doesn't have to go in the office?
no, virtual CISO, when you guys hear virtual CISO, it usually refers to a contracted person. So there's a CISO that sits from an organization, and a consulting company provides that, call it that help, that deputy, that support, or it could be a company that does not have a CISO in their midst, and they need to externally contract a CISO.
Oh, so it's almost like CISO as a service. Like, hey, we're going to provide you. That's
Correct.
dope. All right.
Correct.
And what are the skills that you need? I know that you've got like some done so many things. I know you mentioned your engineering degree. Have you had to get any certifications along the way? You know, what does somebody need to be, you know, a CISO in today's world?
Well, it depends. It depends on where you are, what your career. You've heard me say this before in different talks. It depends on where you are in your career. So for me, something that is most important as a CISO is call it the experience level. So for me, being in cybersecurity for 30 years, I've done everything from being an engineer, being a network engineer, being, a security manager, doing GRC, doing vulnerability, security operations, all these different things that I've grown up in those fields and been director level and been VP level, and then, being an actual CISO of a startup organization, and now doing this CISO as a service. So for me, my career went a little bit different than a traditional person coming up now. So now they've got all these different certifications. There's a CISO certifications, there's a CISM, and some of the other certifications that help you get to that level. But one of the most important skills that we forget when we talk certifications and this and that and the other is the human skills. And you've heard me talk about this in other talks, is, it's, we forget that once you get past that VP level, but past that director level, and actually it's needed in all different levels, that security does not usually translate to the business. I'll give you a perfect example of what I mean. You can go to a board, you can go to the client or anything like that and say, oh, we've got 15,000 vulnerabilities of critical and CVSS 8 and CVSS 9 and CVSS 10, and their eyes are going to glaze over. Or we just opened, or we just closed 15,000 ports and this, they're going to glaze over. What we need is to learn in cybersecurity what's important to the business. How can we help the business, or how are we helping the business? So instead of saying to people, we've identified 15,000 vulnerabilities of CVSS 9.9, change that to, we have secured the finance side so they're less susceptible to these threats. Okay. And tell the team, tell the customer, tell the business to say, we're supporting you, we're helping you, we're, that part is what they need. If you go into a board, if you go into, a CEO, a CFO, a CIO, all they want to know is how secure, what are you doing to help them? How are you doing it to mitigate the risk? But as security professionals, we always forget, we look at these certifications, we look, and I'm going to talk about certifications in a second, but we look at these certifications as the skills that we need. But what we need to start looking at is, how do we teach security people to be more kind of human skills? How does this affect the customer? How does this affect the company? How does this affect your end customers? How do we, you don't hear from Visa or MasterCard or Discover, that they closed 20,000 vulnerabilities. They tell you, we have a secure environment, right? And that's what the customer wants to hear. So how do you ensure that you're mitigating that risk and lowering that risk for that organization? And that's something that we don't get taught. We do these certifications, be it the A plus, S plus, Net plus, Sec plus, CISA, CISS, CISM, all these SANS ones. But one of the things that that happens is, you're teaching people to take the test and pass the test. you're not necessarily teaching people the skills. You're teaching people the how to pass the test. So that's just from an old timer, gray beard. That's something that I've seen in the industry, and we've forgotten about that. What does this mean? What does it mean what we're doing? And the reality is, what we're doing is very important. And we should all that are in this career field need to be very, very, very excited and passionate and loving what we're doing, because what we're doing is securing these companies and making them be able to do the work that they need to do, be it a pharmaceutical company or be it a commercial entity, or being the government, or wherever you are. You need to feel proud of what the security team is doing.
So it seems like, when you get into the industry, it's a little bit different than once you've matured, I think, in the industry. So, because it sounds like what you're saying is that, some of those, pluses and SANs and, all of those certifications you mentioned are good, I think, to get your foot in the door and
Yeah.
to establish yourself once you are in the beginning of your career. But it also sounds like at some point when you get to the manager of managers and then the, VP levels and the director levels and higher, as you make your way up the executive suite, that it stops so much being so about, you having the qualifications to be there as much as you having the skills and the understanding of the business itself, once you get to those higher levels. So I guess your perspective kind of changes as far as, what you need to do to thrive once you get to, I guess, at some point, kind of in the middle in that management, up until like the VP type level. Does that
Well,
sound about?
well, yes, but what I encourage everybody, it doesn't matter what level you are. You could be an intern. And one of the skills that I urge everybody to learn from the time that they're an intern is find out what the business does. Okay, start at the beginning. What is it that we do? And then the other thing that I always tell everybody is, remember, cybersecurity, first of all,
It's not
is
an
not a
industry.
job.
It's not a job. That's
It's
right.
it's 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 a career field, and we've got 50 plus different jobs. Cybersecurity is like saying healthcare. You don't say, I want to go learn healthcare. You say, I want to be a doctor, a nurse, an EMT, a tech or x-ray tech. So the same thing applies to cybersecurity. So we need to start telling people when they say, I want to learn cybersecurity. Well, what do you want to learn? So start working on identifying all these fields and telling them this is what's available to you. And so going back to what we were saying is, even as an intern, knowing the business, knowing the company that you're in, knowing what they do, because we also in the field of cybersecurity are not policemen or women. We're not the police. We don't tell people what not to do. And learn that from right now. We do not say no in cybersecurity. We say this is this is how you do it in a more secure way. If you learn nothing from me or hear nothing from me, remember, cybersecurity, the field and the jobs that we're in are enablers. We enable the business. We help the business. But too often, and for the last couple of years, we've heard, I'm cybersecurity. I say no. I say don't do this. And that's the fastest way that you can get kicked out of a job. When you get that attitude of, I'm not going to allow this to happen. Your job is to tell the business the risks of doing it the way they're doing it. So, and then also support all the policies, the procedures, and things like that to reduce that risk. But that's all we do. We are there to reduce the risk so that the business can keep on going. So it doesn't matter if you're a Ciso, it doesn't matter if you're an engineer, you're an intern, you're, team lead, manager, director, VP, all of us have the same job, which is reduce the risk.
So you mentioned about you had some thoughts about the certifications, and how do you advise people who say, hey, I want to get into cybersecurity as a field, and I want to do something, in the career as a career within cybersecurity? How do you advise them to get started? Assuming that they, are approaching it like, hey, I know that there's this umbrella that has these 55 things underneath of it, right? So how do I figure out what I want to do under that umbrella, and how do I get started, especially if somebody is like, I guess new, maybe fresh out of school, for example.
Okay, so there's three main ways, and of course there's different ones, but in my experience, there's three ways to come into the field of cybersecurity. Number one is your traditional school. You go to college, you finish your cybersecurity degree, and you come out. That's number one. Number two is you say, I'm fresh, and I'm going to start taking some certifications and, and starting that way, and then, working that way. And the third one is, I'm already in the field. I'm a system administrator or help desk person or some other IT field, and you want to flex over to security. That's kind of, if you look at it, again, I'm not saying that's all, but that's kind of the three ways that people get into the field of cybersecurity. So if you're in school and you're in college, university, or formal university or formal education, I always tell people, a lot of the schools and a lot of the people that come out of cybersecurity programs sometimes come out, and in my experience I've seen about 85+% of people that come out with a cybersecurity degree and say, I still don't know what I want to do. Okay, because it's so broad. The cybersecurity program teaches you, the basics of cybersecurity. It teaches you, your confidentiality, integrity, availability, the technologies, things like that. But it doesn't tell you all the different fields that we have. Same thing when you're coming in and you say, I want to do these certifications. And then as you're coming in from a different career field into the field of cybersecurity, we have a big PR problem in the field of cybersecurity. Okay. People don't understand that if you are a little not more non-technical, there's still a way to get in here. You've got your GRC, you've got your security awareness, you've got your, all these fields that are more on the social skills. And you don't have to have that technical deep dive. You don't have to configure firewalls or hack a box or anything like that. Okay. So the first thing that I tell people is this. Okay. Number one, the field of cybersecurity is not a job. Okay, it's a field, it's a career field. So find out all the different jobs and start at the big stuff, right? We call it, blue team, red team, purple team, and I've coined the green team, which is the GRC side. I call them the green team. So look at those things and say, you've got your defense side, you've got your offense side, you've got the people that work in the middle, you've got the people that work with the, policies, procedures, what interests you. And then you go from there and you spider down. Okay. Because in the field of red teaming, which for some reason everybody comes in and says, ooh, I want to learn how to hack. Well, guess what? Yeah, that's great, but you've got to learn how to defend first. How do you, I always tell people, you want to learn how to break a door or break a window when you don't know how a window or a door works. So that's sometimes that we break it back, and say, learn what is it that we do. So that's why I tell people, if you want to learn the technical, start at the blue side, start at the operations side, learn what things we do, because it helps you when you're learning. If you really want to learn how to be a hacker, you need to learn how to, you know, what are things that we look at in a firewall? What are things that we look at in a security, a SIM? Or what are things to avoid if you're, looking at an XDR, EDR, or something like that? These technologies that we have. So it's going to make you a stronger red teamer if you learn the things to avoid on this side. So I always try to teach people that and say, I'm not saying don't be that red teamer, don't be that thing. If that's where your passion is, wonderful. Okay. But remember, sometimes you have to learn things to be better at the job that you are in. So I tell people, first of all, look at all the job, see which ones of those jobs kind of make your eyes go open and say, yeah, let me look for that. And then you start doing some searching. We have so many people on Twitter, or on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Reach out to somebody that does that job and say, what do you guys do? What are things that you like about that job? What are things that you don't like about that job? And then come up with your list of your top, say, 3 career field or career jobs that you want to do. And then once you get that, then going back to your original question is, now you can look at, how do I educate myself to that? So I don't think that that everybody has to do 1, 2, 3, and then do 4 and 5 and 6. No, I mean, each one of those jobs requires something different. So I say that the importance, which is something that Black Girls Hack does, is that mentoring, is that support, is that you want to come into the field of cybersecurity. Let me put you with somebody who's already been there that can give you that knowledge, that can tell you, what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you feel passionate about? And then from there, there's a pathway to do. And there's wonderful, and by no means am I saying that you don't need to do A plus, Net plus, Sec plus, all this stuff, because there's room for that. There's a need for that. You need to know your OSs. You need to know your networking. Network is very important. You need to know your basics of security. You need to know, so those certifications truly help you get there. Plus, because we have, and I guess we'll get into it a little bit later, but when you're going to get a job, you're going to have to pass through HR. Okay. And because we have another problem, which is within the HR and the managers that are there, that are doing these ridiculous, and I can say that because I've been in this industry for 30 years. They do these ridiculous job descriptions that make no sense. That word entry level is a misnomer. Okay. Entry level with a CISSP. Hold on for a second. CISSP, you need 5 years in the field in order to get your CISSP. So how are you asking for an entry level CISSP? Makes no sense, right?
And a sponsor. Don't forget the social aspect of, you have to know somebody who's been in the industry for a while. So I mean, I think that's very gatekeeping in itself.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got these kind of things, and then they ask for, we need, this person to do my favorite one. Okay, was I was in an interview 10 years ago or so, and they asked me for 10 years experience in this technology. And I looked at the interviewer and I said, well, first of all, That company hasn't even been in existence for 5. I know the CEO of that company. And how are you asking for 10 years in a company that hasn't even been in existence for 5? And these things happen in the industry, and these are people that are, us. So there's education that needs to be to the people, to just anybody entering in here, and the management that are looking for these things. We call them purple unicorns. Why are you putting a purple unicorn job description out there? And that demoralizes the people that are coming in, because we say there's 500,000 job openings. And if you look at the 500,000 job openings, they're most unicorns. And they want 3, 5, 7 years experience. Meanwhile, we have 5,000 people entering the field of cybersecurity that want jobs. So how do we have a gap? We have the education over here, people that are doing all their certifications, doing their training, doing all this stuff. And the jobs are 3 to 5, 7. So what's happening in the middle there? Why can't we give the opportunity to these people that are coming in, that are well-trained, that have mentorship? Let's go ahead and give them an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that you and I, tend to run in a lot of the same spaces where we're having a lot of the same conversations about, how there are no, it's not no such real thing as a entry level position, right? Because where schools drop you off at, when you finish your bachelor's degree, or even if you go and get a master's degree and you're done, they still want you to have 3 years of experience. They still want you hands-on experience, right? And they still want you to have these certifications. And I think that there are schools now, like I'm thinking like WGU, for example, where the education is centered around certifications, right? So, even if you make it out of school and you've got, the certifications and you've got the education, you still need the hands-on experience. And it's like one of those things, well, I need experience in order to get experience, right? So, I'm trying to, wherever I go, at least speak to people about, how we can start to fill some of those 500,000 jobs with, like you said, the people who are fresh out of high school or fresh out of not high school, fresh out of college, or fresh out of grad school, so that they can actually be able to work. Because it doesn't make sense to me that, we sell I think a dream of, hey, you go to school, when I'm a little bit younger than you. So, we were taught you go to
There's
school.
0 unemployment in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
That's what we sell. But guess what? People can't get in.
Yeah.
Then you have some other metric out here, is who's waiting to get in. And that's the issue that we have. And I always say, what we need to do with cybersecurity is, there are some fields, just like in healthcare, again, and I bring that up, is there's some fields or some jobs. You can't be a doctor if you don't go through many years of schooling, right? But you can be an EMT, you can be an X-ray tech, you can be a nurse assistant, there's so many different jobs in healthcare that can be done with certification, boot camps, different things like that, training. And we have the same thing. We have the same exact thing here. So what entry level is in one job is not the same thing. So like, for instance, a senior technical architect, or a technical architect, entry level position for an architect might require 7 years. And yeah, I mean, because you're an architect, you're now looking at multiple things. So you need that. Meanwhile, for security operations or red teamer, vulnerability management, or any of these other roles, listen, we can train that. That doesn't require 4 years for you to be able to operate and understand and do the risk management. So we got to we've got, like I said, the PR problem within cybersecurity, the field of cybersecurity is very bad.
So I like to always blame the HR people, because when you talk to hiring managers, they always say, if I see a good, somebody's resume land on my desk, I'm going to definitely take a look at it and at least give it 60 seconds, right? But they are only maybe seeing 10% of those resumes, because HR and I think maybe the ATS systems are screening out, probably the other 90% as not being qualified.
If then, if then that. So you've got the ATS systems, whenever you submit your resume, they have to say this degree and this certification and this thing and that. If they don't have those, you're out. It doesn't matter. It's happened to me. My resume is 8 pages long.
Wow.
It really is. It's 8 pages long, right? And I put it into an ATS system. And we've tried this, by the way. We've done it with some HR teams for a position, put it in. I got kicked out. I'm not saying that I've done everything or I'm good or anything like that. So please, no, I'm, she knows me. I'm very humble. But I have all the key words in there. And if somebody with 30 years experience gets kicked out, I can't imagine somebody that's just starting in the field trying to get all those keywords in their system, and they just can't get in there. And sometimes I get those resumes and I read them that were kicked out of the ATS system, and I go, interview this one, interview this one, interview this. And they turn around and say, but they didn't pass the first screening. And I said, I don't care. This is the experience. This is the levels. This is the stuff. If you look at it, nobody in cybersecurity has a straight line. Nobody has gone in cybersecurity as an emerging field. And I don't think we can call it an emerging field because it's been around for 30 plus years now.
Mm-hmm.
So we should know now, what are the things that we're looking at? What are the, we're looking right now and being able to say either a degree or this many years of experience or these certificates or this training. Right now we're getting better by saying bachelor degree or relevant experience. Okay. We've climbed that level. But guess what? Sometimes you have a bachelor's degree, but you have no experience, or you have 7 certs and no experience. Well, let's see, where can we fit these people? What is it that we need to do? Can we change the way we do business to accommodate this new workforce that's coming in? We have the amount of people that have that 5, 7, 12, 15-year experience is a limited number. The people that are there are already there. And we're trying to steal them from different companies. So that's why there's so much movement in these companies, because there's nobody else. But then we have all these people that are starting their careers, and we've got this gap. We've got this big time gap that we're trying to fill. Well, how are we going to fill it? Change the rules.
Yeah, I starting working on like a series of, I guess, talks or conversations about how you should just hire those entry level people and then train them with what you need, and you get a workforce that's cheaper, and you can train them specifically in the business that you're in, so that they have the right skills because you're teaching them, and I think
mold them.
and I think that will help to fill so that we can start looking like any other industry, because we'll stop having that huge gap between people who go to school and finish and then are able to actually enter the workforce. If you have a finance degree, you can hop out and probably jump into a bank. You have a math degree, you might be able to hop out and jump into something, right? But in cybersecurity, the way things are right now, I don't think that we have a fair shot, because so much of what is considered entry level, it starts at 5 years of experience. So I mean, unless you're getting experience while you're in, you know, I guess college or grad school.
And that's a point. That's a point that, we have had this, it's either college or certificates or experience, right?
Mhm.
Why not all? Why not change the way we're doing things to say, similar to some other degrees where you require some internships, where you require some job training or job corps or something like that that you need to do after, you know why don't we have that with our education? Why don't we have that with our certificates, where a certificate means, you do this, but you also have to work, and you help people get these internships, get these jobs. We have the Department of Labor with the cyber youth apprenticeship program, that they're trying to get 1,000, I think it's 1,000 internships by 2024. And we've got other programs out there that are trying to do for cybersecurity, to bring people and give them internship and give them those kind of on the job training things, but it's not widespread. And the companies are still, and I think that's an education at the company level too. Okay, because you've got your CISOs and you've got your CSOs that understand that. And then you've got the new people that understand that they need to job. And then you've got us, the people in the middle, the people that are working, and the the managers, the directors, called the middle management, if you will, team leads, and they know what they need to do. But unfortunately, because they know what they need to do, they're the ones that are creating these job descriptions. So we need to train the people that are in there to say, listen, can you do this with 2 interns, or 2 entry level people, or 2 juniors, or, can you do the job of, because I've seen some of these job descriptions and they want a vulnerability management person that can also do firewalls, that can also do policy. And it's like, dude, you just described 4 people there, right? And you want it in one. So yeah, I can do that because I've done that. But why don't you hire 2 people that you can share those jobs? And they're going to cost you the same thing. Because instead of hiring somebody at $100 an hour, now you can hire 2 at 50. Not saying that but that's kind of the try to get them to change their perspective. And that's hard. That's hard.
It is, because I always tell people that I'm still a Black woman named Tanisha that's going through ATS systems that are built by people who have inherent implicit and maybe implicit bias. So it's interesting the way that I think people look at ATS systems like they're the cure-all. Like AI is basically the solution to all things moving forward. But I start to poke holes in areas like
HR.
ATS systems.
What's the first word in HR?
H.
Yeah, what's that H stand for?
Human. Yeah. So you mentioned that you feel like for within cybersecurity, we have red teams, we have blue teams, we've got like the purple teams in the middle, and then maybe there's another I guess green team. Do you feel like the foundations for all of those, like kind of like subsections under that larger umbrella, all require like a security operation, a security foundations, like a operating systems, do they all require like those same foundation skills no matter what you end up doing in cybersecurity?
Let me qualify that question. There is a basic foundation of security that everybody needs across the
Mhm.
board. You know, what is security? What do we do in security? What is it that we hope to accomplish? The basics: confidentiality, integrity, availability, those basics of security. But once you get out of that, then there's a second level foundational, okay, where
Mhm.
it goes into more technical, if you will. But not everybody. I'll give you a perfect example. It is incredibly beneficial for you to know how things work when you're in the governance, risk, and compliance side of the house.
Mhm.
Okay, the governance piece. You need to know how things work so that you can interpret those policies, procedures, those laws, those governance, and so that you can measure the risk. Okay, but does it mean that you know how you need to know how to configure a firewall? Not necessarily. So there is a foundational so that we all speak the same language, but I think in the industry, and again, sorry guys, this is Eric speaking here, is we've gone through this thing where you need to have certificate one, certificate two, certificate three, certificate four. And that could also be a little bit of gatekeeping because you can have people that are, call it non-technical, that have wonderful abilities to be able to do security awareness or GRC or something that's more policy procedure driven, and you're submitting them to having to do, you know, IP tables and things like that. That it just doesn't hit here, right? Doing a net plus or something like that because an ATS system says that you need to have an A plus, a net plus, you know, and go through that, or you know, sans 5,000, you know, it's 500, I know, but you know, the big ones, and and you know, you might not need it. You know, I don't need to do 100 hours on Hack the Box to go ahead and learn how to, you know, do a Nessus scan, or you know, 1,000 hours in try Hack Me to go ahead and sit in front of sim and understand those things. So again, it's about pathways to me. It's
Mhm.
about learning the basics and understanding what information security, cybersecurity, data security, cloud security, all the different securities that we have, and understanding where we are, and also be able to, in that introductory, is tell me one certificate. Now, and I'll eat my Mountain Dew bottle, which is translucent because of my green screen. I will eat that bottle if you tell me one certificate or one certificate course that tells you all 50 plus career fields and explains that.
Mm-mm. I don't think that that exists. You know, the I guess what kind of spun my question is, you know, I was trying to, like, you know, write a, you know, kind of like a mind map almost of, you know, what it takes in order, once you get in. And, you know, I was wondering, like, does something like the Security Plus, you know, does that, will that give people the security foundations that they need, right? But then, as you said, you know, even for the Security Plus, you need to know some Network Plus, you need to know some, you know, A plus, and that's again making people who might end up on the green team end up, you know, doing things that they don't necessarily need, you know,
Yeah.
and not getting skills that they need. You know, because I generally tell people, if you're interested in cybersecurity, you know, go get a Security Plus. That you know, as an 85 70 certification will get you into most government contracting places.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
it'll get you a help desk, it'll get you something in there, because that's the minimum that you need in order to be able to get a job in, you know, I think at this point they made it so everybody needs 85 70, but it used to
And
be
you're right.
in
And you're right.
cyber.
In order to get a job in the field of cybersecurity, and I hate it, but it is true. In order to do that, you need to have at least that Sec Plus. And in order to have that Sec Plus, you've got to know your A plus, your Net plus, unless you already know some of this stuff. But your Sec Plus is kind of the one that I always say, that's your entry level cert. But, and I'm looking at the camera when I say this, cybersecurity, the field of cybersecurity, regardless of what job you are, it is continuous learning. It doesn't matter if you're required, you have to. Cybersecurity field, the field of cybersecurity, just like healthcare, is continuing education. Think about it this way, guys. If I didn't continue to learn back in 89, when I was doing, well, 89, 90, and all those times when we were doing Novell NetWare, okay, and these kinds of, old fashioned word perfect and Lotus 123 and I those kinds of things. If I didn't keep on learning through my career, hey, most of the stuff that I started with are in museums right now. For real, I've seen most of the stuff, all the big mainframes and stuff. So the reality is, you start with your Net Plus. Don't stop there. Learn the technologies. Learn the technologies in your field. On a daily basis, there's a new scanner, there's a new tool, there's a new GRC system, there's a new firewall that's coming up, there's a new, right now, the buzzword, zero trust. Learn what zero trust is. Cloud security, everybody's moving to the cloud. You've got to learn that. So being in the field of cybersecurity is a lifestyle. You've got to keep on learning. You got to stay on top of it. And if you don't, you're going to get left behind.
I think that's excellent advice. So if somebody, I think that, just based off of the fact that you're at one of the at the top of the food chain at this point, if somebody wanted to find the most effective way to become a CISO, what would you do? Like, let's say they're just out of college, and they just graduated. What would you suggest? Would you suggest that they, just start working on their experience, or?
So I don't think that I know many CISOs that have reached the level of CISO, and you can see my eyes, I'm trying to remember, it's my mental Rolodex, that have not been in the field for at least, I'll say, 15 to 20 years. And if I see somebody that's 15 to 20 years, I tend to call him a junior CISO. I think the most important thing, as somebody that has their eyes on the prize is from the beginning, is don't pigeonhole yourself into one of the, call it, the branches of cybersecurity. Well, that's important. If your eye is on that leadership mantle, on that architecture mantle, on that different things, is you have got to be open in your career. Learn this, learn that, learn this. And every time you go learn something different, remember this, you are now again entry level into that area. Okay, so if I'm working as a network security person or a DevSecOps, and then I go to vulnerability management, now you're starting your career in vulnerability management. So I call myself an entry-level professional. I have been in almost every job in 32 years, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that I know a little bit about each area. I know about security operations. I know about vulnerability management. I know about endpoint management. I know about identity and access management and all that stuff. And that helped me when I reached the level of team lead. So now, as a team lead or a manager, I was able to manage different teams because I knew what security operations, what threat intelligence, what vulnerability management, what endpoint management was. And I was able to manage all those. And then as I grew up to, a senior director, and now I have two of those, leadership groups, Now that helped me a little more. So bringing up and learning the different things, it just helps you. Don't get pigeonholed, unless that's what you want. I mean, I've known some people that have been in the industry for 30 years and are absolutely wonderful people on security operations or AppSec or GRC, and they're just consummate professionals in that area. And that's a way to do it too. But if you're looking for kind of that management, which was your question, is that call it the global management or the cybersecurity leadership, is knowing a little bit about all and having some experience of that. And again, the most important part is that human skills management. Okay. Being a leader, being the first one, saying, come on, not you go, being able to take the person first, being able to be people first, being able to understand that, yes, sometimes we have to put the job first. But once that big thing, that big Log4j or shell shock or something happens, we need to take a pause and let people breathe and let people be and let them breathe before the next thing comes. And be able to, I'm proud that right now in my teams, we have what we call a one team concept. It doesn't matter, me as a virtual CISO, if I've got to go and run a Qualys scan, or if I got to run, some report on AD, I will go do it. It doesn't matter. So we're one team. It doesn't matter what our titles are. We all have our jobs. We do those jobs. But if we need to back each other up, and I've got 100 plus people right now in 23 teams. So, and we do that all the time. So that's finding your family, finding your community. But back to your question is learn a little bit about everything. Learn how to be a good manager. Learn the business side of the house. And that's going to help you progress. And whenever there's any leadership opportunity, do it. Put yourself out there. I'll lead that team, or I'll lead that. Okay. Hey, boss, let me give me a chance. I'll get this done. Okay. That's how you keep on going.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions from you, so I'll ask my last question for you, which is, what does world domination look like from where you're at? You're the CISO, virtual CISO, and you are managing all of these people, and you've reached what a lot of people view as the top of the, cybersecurity, like, it's at the top of the umbrella, basically. So what's next for you? What are you looking forward to? What's your next goal?
$1 million. No, okay. That's my world domination joke. All right. So for me right now, like I said, I already been a CISO of an organization. Now I'm doing the virtual CISO. You're right. Some people think that is the pinnacle of the career, of the jobs in cybersecurity. The next frontier for me is to bring in the next generation of cyber defenders. That to me is the most important thing. And to do it in a diverse and equitable and inclusive way. Because right now we have a challenge, okay? We have a challenge that we have a lot of people that want to be in this field. We have a lot of people that don't understand how to be in this field. And then we have people that don't give the chance of people to be in this field. And that don't give a chance can be either because of diversity issues, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Please don't shoot me, everybody. But diversity issues, okay? We don't have a lot of people that look like me in that in that area. Okay. And we have to go ahead and give more people more opportunities to grow. It'll surprise you. If I've got any CISOs or anybody looking at me right now, those people that are coming in will surprise you and will be your stars. Give them a chance. Okay.
All right. It looks like Jamal has a question.
And you've got another question on the chat.
Yes.
And I know Tony's been yelling at me in the chat there. I see him up there laughing. Yes, Novell Netwear, baby. That's where we started. All right, Jamal.
Jamal, you want to ask your question? Let's see.
Okay.
Okay. I wasn't able to talk for a bit. So my question is this, right? If you've been going above and beyond, you put yourself out there, you're doing all the things that your supervisor boss asking you to do, but yet you're not getting any traction, what's the next step?
That's a very interesting question. And I'm going to say that, I love the parable of the car. Okay. I've seen this one, LinkedIn, YouTube, all these things. A lady graduates from high school and her dad gives her a car, goes and says, here's this car. Take it. It's an old car. Take it to the dealer and tell me how much you're going to get from this. And they say, it's an old car. We're going to give you $1,000. She comes back, tells her dad, says, take it to the junkyard and ask them how much they're going to give you. They give him $500. Then he says, go to the car club and to ask them how much they're going to give you. And 3 offers come in for $100,000 for the same car because it's a classic car that they can restore. So the point of that thing is know your worth and go where you are respected and appreciated. So what I tell you is if you are in an organization that you feel you're hitting that ceiling and you feel like they're not respecting your work, you're doing a good job, maybe it's time to start looking to a place where you're more appreciated. So, but again, that's a personal decision, but remember your worth, remember who you are, remember what you can give.
I got chills just now because that was a word. I don't know if everybody caught it, but it was definitely a word. All right. So our last question, because I want to be respectful of everybody's Sunday. How can an international student get hired in the cybersecurity field if they have a bachelor's degree in IT without any experience?
An international student get hired in cybersecurity field in the United States? Is that what the question is?
I'm assuming.
Okay. Bachelor degree in IT without any experience, same thing. Apply for those internships. Look to see if there's companies that are US based in your country. Apply for those internship theirs, and then hopefully you can do an H-1B. There's a lot of companies in the United States that are looking for international candidates. One of the companies, there's 3 companies that I will tell you right now that are looking for international people in all countries. There's one called Wipro, W-I-P-R-O. There's HCL, TCL, some of the Indian companies that are looking at people in different countries, in the African continent, in Asia, in Europe, and they do that. So look at them, look at those jobs that they have, and all of them sponsor H-1B. So that's just something I would do if I was outside the United States. Okay.
All right. Well, we are coming up on 3 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Eric, do you want to share, your social media, how people can reach out to you or connect with you on your socials so they can follow your organization? And I know you also do some YouTube streaming. Oh, okay. Got it.
That's why I was laughing. So please follow me on YouTube, Eric Belardo Cyber, as well as, and there we have the shows that we do for Raices, and it supports a lot of folks. We have different shows that we do on cybersecurity, and we have Raices Live that airs every Thursday, or New Battlefields, depends on what we're doing. As well as you can reach us, you see right here, Raices Cyber Org on Twitter, as well as raicescyber.org as our website. And again, ebelardo73 is my Twitter, so reach me there. You can always see us on YouTube. All my links to Raices, to all that stuff are in the channel there. So please just come join the family as well. And Tanisha and I are working on many things together between Black Girls Hack and Raices Cyber. So I am sure that you guys are going to have to suffer through another session with me. I'm so sorry, guys.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate you. I look forward to working with you and your organization in the future. And I thank everybody for hanging out with us today for our Bring a Hacker to Work day. So everyone have a good rest of your day, and we will see you online.